Okay, so there's just a couple of things that we need to do in order to get all of the controls on the left hand side of our character completed. That's to set up our thumb with FK and also set up a parameter where we can control the level of detail of the hand controls, control the visibility of those controls. So let's start out with the FK on our thumb and then move over and set up that control level of detail parameter. So I'm going to find our thumb, and let's find the thumb bones in our network editor, and I'm going to apply the FK controls tool to those bones. So let's select the first bone and enter, and then the final bone, enter. That will apply just basic FK controls to those bones. Let's rearrange the nodes in the network editor. Go ahead and select all of these nodes and change the wireframe color over to blue, since we're dealing with controls on the left hand side of our character. Then for our very final control, and for the next control up from that, both of those bones in a thumb can only be rotated on the x-axis. We want to go ahead, select their orientation to YZ and lock their rotate Y and rotate Z. And that's all there really is to setting up our thumb. We now have the top thumb control and the next two bones down in our thumb set up with FK controls. So now all we need to do is set up the finger level of details parameter, and then we've completed all of the controls on the left hand side of our character. So I'm going to add that parameter, since there's no real good place for it. We don't have a hand controls asset or anything like that. The most, I guess, closest thing would be our super wrist control. So I'm actually going to add the finger of level of detail parameter to the super wrist control. So let's hunt down our super wrist control, allow editing of contents, bring up the type properties, jump over to the parameters and create a new, not a float, we want an integer, new integer, and this is going to be finger LOD for finger level of detail, and I'm going to give this the label of finger controls level of detail. Now we are going to specify a range. I want the minimum to be 0. At 0, no controls are going to be visible. On a value of 1, that main overall hand control will be visible. On a value of 2, the whole finger control will be visible, so that's the 4 controls that each deal with their respective finger. Then on a value of 3, we're going to have the FK controls, that lowest level, finest level of controls, including the thumb controls, visible. So I'm going to set that to a value of 3, so it goes between 0 and 3, 0 being none, then 1 being the highest, 2 being the medium, 3 being the finest level of controls. So we can accept that, and let's go through each of those control objects, setting up an expression on their render tab on the display parameter. Whilst we're there, I'm also going to save the operator type and match the current definition for our super wrist control. So let's grab our FK control, and on the fingers FK control, this is going to be our highest level of control. We only want that to be visible if the finger LOD parameter is equal to a value of 1. So we're going to set its display equal to L underscore super wrist control / finger LOD, if that's equal to a value of 1. I'll bring that up in expression editor for a few seconds. So again, that's if the finger LOD is equal to a value of 1. We can double click and Control C to copy that expression. Now on the 4 controls for the fingers, that's going to be finger 4 FK control, finger 3 FK control, finger 2 FK control, and finger 1 FK control. That is the 4 medium level controls. We can jump over to their display tab, paste in that expression and set that to a value of 2, so they're only visible with a value of 2. On all our other hand controls, that's the 3 controls for our thumb, the 3 finest level FK controls for our first finger, second finger, third finger, and our fourth finger, they all need to be set with that expression, but with a value of 3. So everything's going to disappear because currently we're set to a value of 1. Sorry, a value of 0. But as we increase this to a value of 1, we get that control which deals with rotating the hand as a whole. If we were to have that at a value of 2, we're going to get controls that rotate on a finger by finger basis. And then if we set that to 3, we're going to get controls that deal with the lowest level of control, the finest level of control, just for dealing with FK rotations on each of the bones. So we now have the ability to specify what level of detail we are interested in seeing. And with that, that's going to wrap up the setup of all of the controls on the left hand side of the character. The last thing we need to do in terms of setting up controls for both the left and the right hand side of the character is to mirror these controls. That's going to be the last thing that we do in this DVD, is to mirror the entire rig that we've created so far to the other side of the character, and that will take place over a number of videos. So with that, that's going to wrap up the last part of our hand controls, and indeed wrap up all of the controls on the left hand side of our character. Thanks a lot, everybody.